welcome Anuj Ratra and Vikram Singh.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining Propel, your selling journey via API session today. We are very excited to be here at Accelerate today and connecting with the audience both in person and those joining virtually. I hope you guys got a donut from the donut wall outside. That looked pretty cool. Before we start, let's give a quick introduction about who we are. My name is Anuj Ratra, and I'm the manager of solution architecture on the Selling Partner Developer Services team.
And I'm Vikram Singh. I'm an integration project manager with Amazon Business Seller Integration team. We work with sellers and developers to review their roadmaps and help them for API adoption. We are here to talk about the incredible potential the APIs have to unlock for your selling journey to be propelled. By saying this, I'll leave the first segment to be taken over by Anuj, and I'll be joining for the second segment to talk about Amazon Business APIs. Thank you.
Thanks, Vikram. Before we dive into the content, let's do a quick audience check. Raise your hands if you manage a large, complex catalog of ASINs. All right, most of you. Let's do another one. Raise your hands if you wish you had more automated processes and efficiency. Almost everyone. That's even better. Great. We can see that many of you are looking for great solutions to streamline your operations. While we don't have a magic solution, but we are pretty close. Today, we'll explore the potential of private integration, also known as direct integration into seller central data. Let's learn more. We will dive into how other Amazon sellers are already using APIs to streamline and automate their operations, fulfill orders, manage their listings, and more. Before we get started, let's take a close look at our agenda for today's presentation. We'll begin with an overview of Selling Partner API, where we'll explore key features and capabilities. Then we'll dive into various use cases and discuss the benefits of private or direct integrations. After that, we'll shift our focus to Amazon Business and how you can leverage Amazon Business APIs to optimize selling to Amazon Business customers or business customers. And lastly, we'll wrap up with Q&A, where you can ask any questions that you may have. So at the end of the session, we'll host a live Q&A. If you haven't yet downloaded the Accelerate app, you can find the instructions to do so on the back of your badge. To submit questions or vote for questions that others have submitted, use the in-app QR code scanner to scan this code. Then select Q&A from the panel on the right. All right, so let's start with an overview of Amazon Selling Partner API, which we will also be referring to today as SP API. SP API is a set of secure and scalable APIs provided by Amazon to help third-party sellers like you automate and streamline their selling operations. It allows sellers to integrate your backend systems such as product management, inventory management, and pricing directly with Amazon Seller Central data. First, let's start with an understanding about what SP API is all about. SP API is a REST-based API that Amazon sellers can use to programmatically access their data on listings, orders, payments, and much more. The use of APIs increases selling efficiency, reduces labor requirements, and improves response time to customers. With SP API, you can gain real-time access to critical data and features necessary for managing your Amazon business efficiently. It allows you to automate processes, integrate your existing tools and workflows effortlessly. Now let's come to the big question, like why would you do a direct integration or use a third-party app? Direct integration can be advantageous if you want to connect different backend systems and build customizations which are not available in 3P apps. Now let's take a closer look at some of the key features and capabilities of Selling Partner API. These features empower you to take control of your selling journey in the Amazon store. First is listing management. With SP API, you can create, update, and manage your product listings programmatically. This means you can automate the process of listing creation and keep your catalog up to date effortlessly. Second is order management. SP API allows you to retrieve orders, confirm shipments, handle cancellations, and refunds all in real time. This level of automation ensures smooth order fulfillment and customer satisfaction. Other use cases and features include inventory management. You can efficiently monitor and update your inventory levels and availability. This helps to avoid stockouts and overselling, providing a seamless shopping experience for your customers. Pricing automation. You can dynamically adjust your prices based on competitive factors. This enables you to drive home your pricing strategy and maximize sales and profits. And last is reports and analytics. You can gain access to detailed reports and analytics, analyze your performance, identify key trends, make data-driven decisions to propel your business forward. Here is what our customer Raymond Yu from Zing says about the savings and efficiency that they have realized by SP API integration. Before SP API, they were spending a lot of time doing manual updates inside Excel for updating product data, price, and inventory. Before we start, let's take a look at all of the APIs which are available today. I'm not going to go into each one of these, but I want to explain like how you need to look at all the APIs that are available today. We have a certain set of APIs which are available for sellers like you, and we have a certain set of APIs which are available for vendors. Vendors are folks that sell to Amazon, and Amazon sells to the customer. And then there's a certain set of APIs which are available for both sellers and vendors. These APIs provide a wide range of functionalities, allowing you to streamline operations, automate processes, and gain valuable insights into your Amazon business. Our online API documentation is a great resource to learn about the available APIs and sample resources to build faster. For easier understanding, I like to group these APIs into three broad buckets. One is listing, fulfillment, and business intelligence. Listing includes all APIs for managing product data. It includes A+ content, pricing, etc. Fulfillment includes everything which is related to order management, inventory management, different fulfillment programs like FBA, MCF, etc. And then business intelligence includes everything from analytics, search term, solicitation, and reviews. The reason I like this logical grouping is to help you decide on the first use case that you're going to build for direct integration. Now that, let's switch gears and think about some of the use cases. First step when you're deciding on your integration is to decide on the use case that you would be building the integration for. Here are some of the popular use cases that we see sellers like you build indirect integrations for. One is repricing automation. You can dynamically adjust your prices based on competitive factors. Inventory management for accurate inventory levels. Order fulfillment for order retrieval and shipment confirmation. Reporting and analytics for business intelligence. Let's look at the integration timeline. Once you've decided on the use case, let's look at the timeline and the steps to get started as an API developer. So the first step is to register as an Amazon seller. I know many of you are already Amazon seller, but if you're not, you have to register as one before you can apply for API access, which is the step 2. Once you apply for API access, there's a little vetting that goes on our side to determine that you're upholding the Amazon policies, and then you get into building your integration. The fourth step is testing your integration. We have a couple of testing frameworks available that help you test your integration. And fifth step is to go live. Now let's take a closer look at each of these steps. Step 1, as I said, is to register as an Amazon seller. If you're not already signed up as an Amazon seller with a Seller Central account, you need to register as one. You can visit the Seller Central website and sign up for a seller account. Once you're registered from in your Seller Central account, you would go on the main navigation, and then you'll go to apps and services, and then navigate to develop apps to create your developer profile. This step 2 is to apply for selling partner API access. As part of this step, you'll create a developer profile, select the appropriate roles required for your integration, and I'll go into details like what the roles are about. This will primarily be based on the use case that you have selected earlier. Then you'll answer a few questions to ensure that your application will be in compliance with Amazon policies. Let's take a look like what roles are about. A role is the mechanism used by selling partner API to determine whether the application that you're developing has access to an operation or resource. As a developer, you must request and qualify for a particular role, or your application will not be able to access the operations and resources which are grouped under that role. By qualification, I mean if you have a use case for order fulfillment, you'll apply for a role that's particular to order fulfillment. But if you try to access another operation such as finance management, then you'll probably get an access denied exception. Access inside SP API is controlled by 11 roles, and all APIs, reports, feeds, notifications are all bound by these roles for all selling partners. Roles also protect access to sensitive information, also referred to as personally identifiable information or PII, and ensure that your application has only access to the data that's required for your application. If your application requires access to PII data, then you would need to apply for a restricted role. Requesting access to a restricted role will prompt you to select the marketplaces in which you want to have that role or functionality, and there will be a questionnaire to describe the reasoning about why you need that PII access. One key thing to keep in mind is that restricted roles come with elevated security requirements. Let's take a minute to see what the security and compliance requirements in SP API are all about. When you do a direct integration with SP API, it comes with certain security and compliance requirements so that we can jointly safeguard our customer information. There are 3 sets of policy. The first, the data protection policy. Second, the acceptable use policy. And third, the Amazon Services API agreement. Data protection policy contains requirements to have technical controls for securing customer data that's retrieved through SP API. SP API follows industry standard practices, including data encryption, secure authentication, and access controls. Acceptable use policy clarifies the appropriate use of Amazon Services API, and the data that you will retrieve from that is used to perform acceptable Amazon activities, and only for authorized users who have authorized you to perform these activities on their behalf. All of our policies are available online in our documentation website to review, and you can just go online and review this policy even before you plan or start your direct integration to get a sense of like what the compliance requirements will be. Coming back to step 2, once you've filled your developer profile with appropriate roles and reviewed that the application you are developing complies with the data protection policy, then you can submit that request. After that, a member from our risk program team will vet your responses and provide you with the necessary permissions to start your integration. Once your application for SP API access is approved, it's time to start building. I recommend that you utilize the resources that we provided in our online developer documentation. It includes sample code, SDKs, and guides to develop your integration. This documentation also provides you with detailed information about the endpoint, request response structures, and authentication mechanisms. We also have 2 AWS quick starts, which are templated sample codes that you guys can use to kickstart your implementation. The first quick start provides the necessary authentication and authorization model to call any of the API. And the second quick start provides an opinionated solution about accessing the reports API, which houses all the report types. Let's take a closer look at the SP API endpoints. So we have 3 endpoints that service all the marketplaces that are available globally. First, we have the North American access point, which is based out of the AWS region US East 1, and it services all the North American marketplaces such as Canada, US, Mexico, and Brazil. Second, we have the European selling region out from the European endpoint, and it services the marketplaces for Europe, such as Spain, UK, France, and Belgium. And last, we have the Far East endpoint, which services the marketplaces for Singapore, Australia, and Japan. It's key to design your application, keeping in mind that you have to switch these endpoints when you're trying to access different marketplaces around the globe. Let's talk about some of the best practices to when you're building your application. First is expect changes. Don't code your application to expect only certain values, fields, or elements. Second, this one I like a lot, log anything unrecognized that you see. This way you can cross-reference and update your client application if you see any responses that are not recognized by your application. Third is to surface any unrecognized elements, fields, or values to your users. I think a technology person looking at the responses are great, but if you can build functionality by which your users can directly map these fields, would give you less maintenance on your applications. And the last and the most important is to expect the response elements in any order. The responses from the APIs are JSON based, but the attributes can be returned in any order. So please ensure that your client applications do not depend on the order in which the response elements are returned by SP API. Now, before going live, test your integration. We provide 2 SP API mechanisms to do so. We refer to them as SP API sandbox environments to simulate various scenarios and ensure that your integration is functioning as expected. We recommend that you test different API endpoints and verify the accuracy of your responses. First, we provide something which is called as a static sandbox, which uses pattern matching to return static and mocked responses. And second is a dynamic sandbox, which routes the request to a sandbox backend that can return realistic responses based on the request parameters. One key thing to keep in mind is that the sandbox environments are for testing and not for scalability testing. What that means is that you cannot go against these endpoints and do performance testing to ensure that your application will hold for the holiday rush. Another key thing to note is that the calls to the endpoints are subject to throttling limits, which is different from the actual throttling or rate limits available for the APIs themselves. For the sandbox endpoints, there is a rate limit of 5 requests per second and a burst of 15. What that means is that you can send 5 requests and they will be processed immediately, and then you can queue up another 15 for processing. The 21st request that you send will probably receive an error saying HTTP 429, too many requests. Another key thing that I recommend is to invest in a rate limiting client when you're developing your application so that you can respect and adjust the rate at which your client is making calls to SP API. Let's talk a little bit more about testing. So making sandbox calls to SP API sandbox is identical to making production calls. The sandbox endpoints returns a static and mocked response from the selling partner API. You can refer to these mocked responses in the Swagger model JSON for the API that you want to build on. How this is different from the dynamic endpoint is that making calls to the SP API dynamic sandbox is very identical to protection calls, and these responses are stateful. So whenever you get a response back from a dynamic sandbox, you can potentially react to that input as well. One of the examples that I'd like to state over here is what if you wanted to verify the shipping charges to different ship-to addresses? What you can do is pass a shipping address and then see the response and then code your application in a way to respond to that. Lastly, you can determine which operations support dynamic sandbox by reviewing the Swagger model JSON for that API that you want to call. All right, so we've made it to the final step, which is going live. Once you're confident in the performance and functionality of your integration, it's time to go live. You can switch from the sandbox endpoints to the production endpoints and update the necessary configurations and start calling SP API in your live selling operations. We recommend to start with a marketplace that is the least number of ASINs or the least number of revenue. So in case things go wrong, the impact is minimized. Lastly, remember it's crucial to adhere to Amazon policies and guidelines throughout the process to ensure your integration is compliant. Right. So now that we've explored selling partner APIs, let's shift our focus back to Amazon Business. And I'd like to call back Vikram back on stage to talk more about Amazon Business.
Thank you, Anuj. Okay. Before we get started on understanding Amazon Business APIs, let's do a quick poll. How many, by show of your hands, can you tell me how many of you already serve, if you're a seller or if you're a developer, build an app that serves business customers? Well, I see few, so that's good. Thank you. I think that helps me position how we'll go through the flow of the remainder of the presentation. So before we dive in, I think it becomes more crucial to understand what is the opportunity size we are talking about when we talk about Amazon Business, what it is about, and then we'll talk about what APIs we offer on SP API that can help you build automation and propel your journey. We'll then look into what it takes for you to start on your journey and where do we help you? How do we help you all throughout your process? And then finally, we'll leave you with some resources for you to refer as you walk out of the session. Okay. Let's start. At Amazon, from a long time, we have seen that the corporates and business buyers were buying in bulk and office supplies off of Amazon. So in 2015, we decided to launch Amazon Business. We are very excited to share that as of 2023, Amazon Business has clocked in $35 billion in annualized sales, and we continue to grow. We already serve business customers across 9 marketplaces. So if you're building an app or serving, you're just doing it across all the 9 marketplaces. Sellers. Most of our selling partners who are registered on Amazon.com get automatically registered for Amazon Business. So you're fulfilling orders for Amazon Business already. And what makes it really sweet is it's free. It's free to open a business account. So what are you waiting for? If you're not registered yet, go ahead, get started on your journey and see what it has to offer for you. Amazon Business already serves customers from small, medium to large enterprises. We serve 96 of the Fortune 100 companies. They are our customers who buy from Amazon Business. Now that we have seen what the opportunity size looks like, let's try to understand what are the ways to go about adoption. What options do you have as a seller, as a developer? As a seller, there's one option is you can either build your own integration, which is you choose to register with the process that Anuj talked about as a SP API developer, then gain access to APIs that are specific to Amazon Business and build your solution. I understand there are sellers who want to get start off, maybe outsource their integration needs. You can always go to a 3PI, and we'll talk about the journey as well as to how you can go about that. Okay. Now, let's dive into the first use case, which is if you're a seller and you want to build a solution by yourself. That is a private developer is what we call them, right? So the first step, which Anuj was alluding to, is the process of getting registered as an SP API developer. If you already build automation for your Amazon.com, which is your customers for residential, you're covered. You don't have to do anything else. You can skip the first step. But if you're a seller who is just getting to start and propelling their journey to sell more and grow, that's where you can go ahead and get registered as an SP API developer. Once you do that, the question could be is, okay, does it cost? If you are getting started, the AWS account is for free. So you can set up a free AWS account to make the calls to SP API. Once you do that, you choose the right role. So we have talked in length about the roles, so I'll not dive into that part. But you need to know the right role to make the right call. Like if you're making a call to get the pricing information, you're fulfilling an order for your customers, then what is the customer information? You need the right role. Once you decide on the roles that you need and you get approved for them, you then move on to creating and registering your application. So you need to register your application so we can confirm that it is your application that is tied to your selling account. Once you do that, you need to authorize yourself in Seller Central. You might be thinking, why should I authorize myself, right? It's because we protect your data as we protect our buyers' data. So we don't want somebody to be making calls on your behalf and get insights into your selling journey. So that's why we recommend you to authorize an app to get the level of security they need to get only access to that information they need to know. Lastly, you can start making SP API calls. It may feel like, oh, do I need to invest in a tech effort, build a product, and then start making the calls? No. What we do is we provide a Postman collection, which is an easy tool that you can just download and make calls to see what kind of responses you get for the API before you can design your application. And once you do that, you understand what your product looks like, you have made the design, you develop and you go live. Now, let's dive into the second use case, which is how do I work with a third-party integrator, which we call as our partners who have developed Amazon Business Solutions. There are 3 ways to find them. We made it easy. First is Seller Central. So we created a B2B Central. So as a seller, when you log in into B2B Central, there is a page called as API Overview. This page gives you access to all the features that Amazon Business supports and the integrators who have launched the feature. We understand it's a very complex process to figure out a 3PI from the App Store. So we created a shorter selection of the 3PIs that have worked with us to implement the solution. So you can go find them. The second is we are excited to announce that we have a public page live on developer services called Amazon Business that talks about the same features. And then the third criteria, which is the least recommended, is going with this internet search, where you can just key in Amazon Business Solution providers and then go find any 3PI that you see that has already implemented our solution. You can work with them. Okay. You may say, okay, that's fine. That's all but is there a real use case? So we did bring up a use case from one of our integrators called SellerSnap. They are repricers who help sellers reprice and continue to win the featured offer. What they have to say when they implemented our repricing solution was that they took out the guesswork out of sellers and gave them a head start. So now the sellers are able to reprice with more confidence, knowing that they'll be the featured offer for the business customers. Now, so far we have seen how to get about registering for an app, building an app. What are the use cases, right? So the use cases to start with is pricing. If you're a seller that is just starting on your journey, the first use case that distinguishes you is being able to set business prices and quantity discounts. And we have APIs that enable to do so. If you are somebody who is selling a large set of ASINs that you cannot manage manually, or you have the frequent changes that you need to do, those are the use cases that we support with pricing APIs. If you're a reseller or you're a seller who is trying to price the product right, we have APIs that help you get notifications as and when there is a change in the top featured offers. So you can create some trend analysis out of it and figure out what is the best price for you to price your product. And if you're a reseller and you're competing for the featured offer, then you can continue to make sure that you're pricing your product to be the featured offer as well. The next use case, once you have set up your product, listed your product, is procurement and inventory management. We have learned from the sellers that it was a big pain point in terms of how you're trying to maintain multiple shipping templates and you're aggregating your inventory to report into Amazon. So we have changed that. We provide APIs now that support you to report inventory across multiple locations, and you can do so doing just one shipping template rather than maintaining multiple ones. And then, as we know that business customers like to buy in bulk, we support package hierarchy, which is where you create a single unit configuration, but then we provide you recommendations that tell you what are the other configurations that are being demanded. So you can look at that report, understand how you can bring in case packs, maybe pallets and so on. And once you put up those configurations and list those to relate those with APIs and you link them up, it helps you get better customer experience, help the business buyers buy more, and what? It helps you save on your costs because you're shipping in bulk, you're saving on your package and shipping costs. So those are the use cases we support via APIs as well. Third use case is around ads, analytics, and reporting. We offer 2 kinds of reports, which is one, if you're trying to source ideas for new products, we offer business product opportunities, which help you understand products that are on high demand on Amazon and off Amazon. So with the second kind of report, you can get insights to list the products that are never sold, but yet high demand by business customers. Then we do also provide insights on your current products that you list, which is sales traffic metric reports. These reports give you insights via API in terms of your ASIN performance, your page views, order conversion ratio, so you can use these to fine-tune your ad strategies, your pricing strategies, so that if you're getting less glance views or more, but you're not getting a good order conversion, you can appropriately size them. Last but not the least is around the fulfillment. As all customers who buy on Amazon, they love the shipping speeds what Amazon has to offer. The business customers love it, but they have their own delivery preferences. They might want you to deliver on a certain time when they're open, when on a specific floor or area or a time when they have to receive those. To meet these delivery preferences, we were not sharing those via APIs to our sellers. Now, we have started sharing those preferences via APIs, so you as sellers can retrieve that information and use that to make decisions in terms of fulfilling your orders, which eventually impacts your customer satisfaction. Now, how do we support you throughout the journey? When you're creating your profile, we understand it could be a complex process, you could run into challenges. We are there to help you support that. Once you have done with your profile creation and you're planning, like how do we go about? Well, we talked about a lot of features. Depending on where you are at your selling journey, we can help look into your roadmap and help you guide what is the best feature and how you can dial up your solution to create efficiencies across your system. During the build phase, if your developers are running into challenges when they're trying to make the calls and develop your solution, we are there to help you resolve the problems. So to make sure that you stay on time with your launch dates and your application to be released. Last but not the least, on the post-launch. Once you launch your solution, we are not gone. We are still there to support you. There could be gaps, there could be use cases that you could be working on which are not supported by the APIs. So we are there to collect that feedback and anecdotes from you and then work with the product team to fulfill those gaps and make sure that you have a smooth journey and efficiencies across your selling journey. To learn more about the features that we talked about for Amazon Business APIs, you can reach out to us. We are a team of solution architects and integration project managers that we work to resolve your queries and help you go with your adoption journey. You can reach out to us at integrationservices@amazon.com. Let's look at a quick review of what we covered in the session so far and what are the key takeaways. You looked at how to register, understand how to get registered with SP API, the advantages of that. Then you saw how you can leverage that understanding into using Amazon Business as a use case to build your APIs and Propel in your journey. Then we shared some of the resources, be it the links where you can go look at that or the email ID where you can get support from. And then we dived into the details and to the conclusion of saying what the use case is all about.